feel like the way I grew up, or how I grew up as an artist, and seeing art and seeing African Americans, whether it's entertainment, movies, or sometimes you can see the person and you can know that this person's black.
Right.
But I remember learning and seeing other generations, older generations growing up, where there was a time where you didn't know if that person was black, white. And so there was this thing that at the time it was, for example, I don't know what's a good example of this, famous baseball player, Jackie Robinson.
Oh, Jackie Robinson, okay.
For example.
Yep.
I think him and his ability to be an exceptional baseball player was the most important thing. But the fact that he was black, it was an inspiration to everyone else that was the same color as him to do that, given what he had to go through. But at the end of the day, you didn't know, you would just know him as this exceptional baseball player. And I remember growing up, seeing other artists, if the artists were black, it wasn't like I was eager to know.
Yeah.
For me, it didn't really matter.
Right.
If it was good, it was good. And if I found out that that person was black or this inventor was black, then it was like, wow. But it was never like, wow. Like if I knew the person was black in the beginning, it wasn't really a wow thing.
I understand. Yeah. Yeah. It wasn't the thing that was most, like you were saying, if you looked at, let's say, a painting that's abstract, you would never know necessarily, or even a painting that's figurative either, for that matter, unless you just knew the style of the artist. You wouldn't immediately know that that was an African-American artist that produced it, right?
Yeah.
You were just looking at it from an artistic standpoint and how it appealed to you and so forth.
But to discover that they were, then it was just like, oh, like that's a big inspiration. I think it rubbed off on a lot of us like that, but I just felt like there was a time culturally where as African Americans, we were really more focused on being seen for what it is our talents were and our greatness is versus what our skin is. I think now it feels like it's more political thing. Like people want you to know that, hey, I'm an African American doing this. I'm a black person doing this.
I see.
When before it was just like, I don't want to be judged by the color of the skin.
Okay.
Now it feels like there's this intertwining thing of judgment and, look, I can do this.
I see. I get, and so now I'm kind of putting it together. It sounds like you just want to be seen as an artist who is producing the work that you're inspired to produce, and not necessarily focus on the fact that you were black. It could be like after the fact acknowledgement, but not an upfront thing.
Yeah, because honestly, there's a, like, this is 2023.
Yeah.
Not only do you have a lot of black artists that paint black art, but you have a lot of white artists that paint black art too.
And by that, you mean subject matter that's black.
Yeah, the subject matter is black.
Yeah.
So does that make them
And that's the question. So how do you define what a black artist is, right?
So
yeah,
that's the thing I think that I ended up pondering at some point.
Yeah.
Kind of noticing, it's like, well, there is this focus that is important, but at the same time, individually, we just take it in differently and we put it out in a different way.
I understand. And my understanding too is just in general, if you wind back the clock, a lot of times, a lot of that comes from, like you took the example of Jackie Robinson, and there were so many, he played in the Negro baseball leagues and stuff like that, and he was a star there. But there were other stars too that were talented as well, but just weren't allowed to play professional Major League Baseball. And then finally, Jackie Robinson breaks the barrier. Yeah. And it wasn't because of their talent. It was just because of their skin. So I think what that generated was, just historically speaking, is this desire to say, hey, you know what? Just because I'm black doesn't mean I can't be good at what I'm doing. And I think a lot of times when, in my experience anyway, just thinking about my own father, his generation, and even members of my own generation, it's almost like saying, hey, listen, I don't conform to the racist idea that just because I'm black, I'm not capable of these great achievements, regardless of what it is, business, entertainment, arts, science, teaching, you name it. And so anyway, I appreciate where you're coming from on that.